He blew out the Wizards on Super Bowl Sunday, and we break down why the Kel'el Ware Bam Adebayo pairing was the difference in that game. But Wes, if any fans thought that Miami might tank away the season, I think Erik Spoelstra clarified the front office's stance on that.
And David, I guess it's our job to help explain it.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome back to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making us your first listen every day. Join the Cookie Gang, become an everydayer. That means subscribing, tuning in every day, Monday through Friday, and signing up for the Everydayer Club with the link in the show notes. Today's episode is sponsored by FanDuel. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with a bet on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. Bunch of stuff to get to. We're going to get to yesterday's win over the Wizards in a second. We have credit cookies to hand out. And we'll talk about the minutes with Bam and Ware on the floor all later in the show. But I want to start with this quote. It's Erik Spoelstra's response, David, to a question about tanking before yesterday's game versus the Wizards, who are obviously tanking. He was asked about the difference between the ways that these two organizations are approaching the second half of the season. He said, quote, "You're free to do whatever you feel is best for your organization. People will criticize it one way or the other. People criticize us. We're going to compete every single night, every night. Like I told you the other day, take it or leave it, like it or not, that's what we're doing. Some people hate it. Some people commend it. We don't care. We ain't changing." Then, David, he was asked about trying to miss the playoffs at the end of the year to maybe increase your odds of landing, a pick in the lottery. Spo said this, quote, "That's who we are. That's what we believe. That's what we believe in. We're always going into games. We're always going into seasons to win. Obviously, this comes from my boss. This has been our culture for 30 years, and I'm a caretaker of this culture. So that ain't gonna change. It allows us to develop winning habits and accountability that people may not understand if you're not in the building." End quote. David, in case anybody was wondering how the Heat were going to approach the second half of the season, there you go.
Not really sugarcoating it there or beating around the bush from Erik Spoelstra. Pretty direct in saying, if you're expecting the team to drop a few games here and there, that ain't going to happen. So not really surprised either, right? Like, I guess this is as strong and public a statement as we could ever expect from the organization regarding that. But I guess we've already known that was the case. And we've seen a lot of fans say, especially with the way they stood pat at the trade deadline, unwilling to make any moves or incapable of making any moves. And the response was, well, what the hell is next? Because you just want them to take any stance, like one way or the other. Are you leaning all in? Are you going to go after said superstar? Are you going to make a trade? Are you going to make even a secondary or tertiary move that might change the roster around or free up some salary cap, or maybe even get a couple of trade assets that you could include a draft pick or two? But no, they didn't do anything. And that's one side of the equation. And the other side is, well, if you're not going to do that, then what's the point? Because as far as we can tell, this team is not anywhere near a contending status. They're good, but not quite good enough. And that's not going to get a cut either way. So it seems like you're probably headed in the same direction that they've been in for the same number of years, which is the play-in tournament, maybe compete for a playoff spot and see what happens at that point in time. But it's not looking very optimistic. So the fan perspective, and it's pretty understandable, is, well, why not? What's to stop this team from just trying to improve your odds? As you've pointed out before, the best pathway to a championship is by getting a top player in the draft, and maybe you'll luck out and get that superstar that can help carry this team into that next championship status, or be able to at least be one of the top teams in the league. And that doesn't seem likely when you keep getting the 13th pick or the 14th pick or the 16th pick. You're just kind of playing the same game over and over again with your roster construction.
So the Heat have obviously decided that this is not something they're going to do, and this is a top to bottom decision that this team has made. And I'm gonna attempt to explain the organization's decision on this without, and I hope this doesn't necessarily come off as a defense of it, because I really am not interested in taking a side on this, because it is what it is, right?
Right.
Now I have my own opinion on it, and I do think my own opinion is different than the organization's, right?
Probably.
But in terms of the explanation of what this is, the Heat have a culture, right? It's talked about all the time. And it feels like sometimes fans want the benefits of the culture without some of the negatives of the culture, right?
Right.
They want the benefits of building this strong, winning at all costs, next man up, nastiest, grittiest, always competitive, everything that everybody says about this Miami Heat organization throughout the league. You only accomplish that with this level of defiance. With what you're hearing from Spo, you only accomplish that with this level of defiance against all of the tanking, against all of, frankly, the reasoning, the math, the logic. If you want one thing, you can't really have this other thing. And so if you're a Heat fan who loves the culture, who loves everything in terms of the winning part of this, but you are understandably frustrated by the fact that this team will not tank, even when it is very obvious that maybe a calculated step back is the best direction for this team to go if it wants to land that superstar player, it's really hard to have it both ways. That is what the organization will tell you. And I do agree with that probably about 98% of the way. They have also done, this isn't just some sort of willy-nilly just decision that they made. They have done the research. Like they will talk often internally about, hey, we've looked at this. Tanking doesn't work the way everybody looks at the best case scenarios of the tanking and says that's why you tank. Tanking generally doesn't work. Look at the Orlando Magic. They've been rebuilding. When did Dwight leave? 2010, 2012, something like that.
Yeah,
2012. How many 2 or 3 rebuilds since then? Like it just doesn't work.
It doesn't.
Not all the time. And even
look at the Washington Wizards.
Like the Wizards, great point. They tanked for John Wall, and you got John Wall, who was a very good player for a half decade, and the injuries were unfortunate with him. But it didn't lead to anything. It led to one playoff series win with that Wall Beal Gortat team, and so you look at even the Thunder, who are brought up all the time. They didn't draft their best player. Yeah. They got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in a trade. Like that doesn't count, Yeah. And so I get where the Heat are coming from. Now I'll say this: you don't have to do it the way the Wizards are doing it. You don't have to do it the way the Utah Jazz are doing it, where it is so blatantly obvious and frankly disrespectful to the league and the game itself. I think. Okay, that's where I do agree with the Heat. Where I disagree with them is you don't have to do it that way. If it's the end of the year, it's the last 2 weeks of the season, and it is clear what is happening with this team, who's to say Bam's lower back isn't acting up again and he has to rest the last 2 weeks of the season, right? And so that's sort of where I'm at is it doesn't have to be this blatant. There's another way to do it where you can kind of more quietly and maybe a little bit more respectfully do it.
Well, you look at just last year's NBA Finals participants, or at least the year before, was at the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I think both of those teams made a strong case against tanking, but also for another level of adding to your roster, which is that second, what is it that you always call it? The second draft player. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, as you pointed out, drafted by the Los Angeles Clippers, now thrives as a member of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Tyrese Halliburton, drafted by the Sacramento Kings, becomes an all-NBA player with the Indiana Pacers. So that's, I think, a better path for what the Heat are looking to accomplish, because there's good players on this roster, but there's also superfluous players. Like you're looking at the future of this team. Norm Powell, for all that he's been this year, probably isn't going to be a long-term fixture for this group. Andrew Wiggins, similarly, good player, not necessary. And so it's about cutting certain limbs off the tree in order to help it grow in the way that you want it to, for it to thrive and not necessarily have this extraneous branches that don't fit into a long-term plan. And if you get rid of those players, and that sounds harsh, believe me, I like Wiggs, I like Powell, I like everything that they represent off the court, I like what they bring on the court as well. And yet they don't fit into a long-term plan. If you trade away those players for draft picks or at least something, and then you're able to parlay whatever you get in exchange for that second draft player, maybe that's the path. And I don't know that player exists. I don't know who those players around the roster. We've talked about it before.
If we knew who those players in the league were, those players would have been right. Like that kind of defeats
Sam
the point.
Presti is a genius, and I don't think he traded for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander expecting him to become the MVP.
Nobody did.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And look, Paul George forced his way out, right? Because he wanted to go team up with Kawhi. That was a Paul George decision. Now, maybe the Thunder were secretly kind of happy about this for the chance to kind of rebuild this thing. But
Right.
look, Giannis was in the middle of the first round. Nikola Jokic was in a second round pick. You could find guys. That's the other part that the Heat are trying to do. This is why the Heat do value draft picks more than they did, is because, hey, maybe we don't get the number one pick where the best odds are landing that best player, but if we consistently draft guys, one of these guys is going to blossom into a superstar. You got Bam Adebayo at 14. He turned into a multiple-time All-Star, right? Like, that's not a superstar player, but that's a huge win where you got Bam in the draft. You don't find those players usually at that spot in the draft. Tyler Herro, ditto, right? You don't even find a one-time All-Star at the point that you got Herro in the draft usually. So they've had a lot of success in the draft. They just haven't had the ultimate success of finding a Giannis or finding a Jokic or finding a Kawhi. And look, if the plan is to just keep taking bites at that apple until you do, okay. And they're going to be a 500-ish team, and they're going to be in the playoffs-ish every once in a while. Maybe they'll get lucky one of these years and they won't have to do it through the play-in tournament. And that's kind of the decision they made if they can't trade for a superstar player. And I still think at the end of the day, the idea is all these picks and all these young guys and all this stuff, we'll still trade all that crap for Giannis, okay? If we could do it this summer. And that does remain, I think, ultimately the plan A here. We'll see. We've had that conversation a million different times. We do want to talk about this win over the tanking Washington Wizards. Credit Cookies is next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Shoot your shot on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. Prize Picks is giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. It's America's #1 app for sports picks. Prize Picks is simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if your picks are right, you can cash in. You can choose from basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer, UFC, and more. Plus, if you've got features like early payouts and flex play, so you've got options while the games are still happening. You just download the app and you'll be surprised at how easy it is to get started. It just takes a couple of minutes to build your first lineup. I've been making NBA lineups around players that I already follow, picking more or less on points and assists, and honestly makes every possession way more fun, even as I'm covering the games. And it's available in all 50 states. It's easy for anyone to jump in. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA, and again, you get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right, and we'll be right back.
As you might have heard us mention on the show lately, we recently launched a new subscription program called the Everydayer Club. That includes ad-free shows, access to a group chat for Heat fans on Discord. Well, this month we are launching a new all-access tier as part of that program that includes even more. If you sign up, you'll get the perks that I just mentioned, plus the ability to text me and David directly, submit questions for post-game shows like this, and subscriber-exclusive episodes of Locked On Heat. The Daily Show's not going anywhere. It's always going to be free. And I can't thank you enough for being a listener and supporting the show that we do here every day. But if you're looking for another way to support us, we'd love for you to check this out. If you're interested in being part of the Cookie Gang and joining the Everydayer Club All Access tier, tap the link in the show notes and head to lockedonheat.supercast.com to learn more. David, it's another Miami Heat win, which means it's time for the tastiest segment of Locked On Heat. It's time for Credit Cookies. 10 cookies to give out. Where do you want to begin?
Well, 132-101 victory over the Washington Wizards. And you know what? They kind of blew the games open pretty early on. They were down by as many as 9, I think. And then they flipped that switch late in the first quarter and just started piling on from there. And the Wizards just kind of looked shell-shocked. They were ready to go watch Bad Bunny in the Super Bowl. Clearly, that was on their minds because they just weren't interested in playing any good basketball. But the Heat were. They played some pretty solid basketball. A little concerned that they wound up getting such extended minutes on the first night of a back-to-back. They're playing the Utah Jazz on Monday night. But one of those players that was definitely ready, Kasparas Jakucionis. I think that was that was a big story for me. 22 points on the night, his best offensive night as a rookie. 8 of 10 from the floor, 6 of 6 from three-point range. And unbelievable. Like the shooting was effortless, and he you could tell early on that he was dialed up. He got one shot to fall, and it was like, okay, he was feeling it. A couple possessions later, he hoists another one, contested shot, nails it. And then he's looking to get that shot off in the corner, and the teammates are finding him. and he was confident in letting it fly. Phenomenal. But he also had 6 assists. So it was a good balance of incredible scoring and playmaking. And I think improving defense too. Like he's been really solid in that regard. 2 steals in the game. And I think he's just gotten better and better. He's turned out to be a really solid player. Look, to kind of piggyback off the conversation in the first round, this is a player that you feel you drafted. And I don't know if he's got star level status to him, but he's been developing. He's been getting better. And that's why you kind of say, you know what, you can't trade away some of these older veterans that might not fit the long-term plan because you have a Jakucionis on the roster and you want to see where that takes you. Maybe he will blossom into that star. It's hard to tell as a rookie who's gotten some inconsistent playing time, but he's getting better and better. Yep. And last night was certainly evidence of that.
So 6 of 6 from 3-point range is the most for a Heat rookie, without most threes made by a Heat rookie in a game without any misses in franchise history. Congrats to Jakucionis for that. The 6 assists to 1 turnover, I think, is an incredibly important stat there too, right? That assist to turnover ratio is awesome. I really like this quote from Spo, who was talking about Jakucionis after the game. He said, he really competes. He was getting in little things, dust-ups throughout the course of the game, but it's really just because of how hard he plays. There's a purity to that. Offensively, he's a guy that has a big upside. He can really shoot the ball, but he's also a playmaker and can make plays. To your point, David, they look at Jakucionis as a guy with a ton of upside.
Right.
Norm Powell said the sky's the limit for him after the game. And I do think that that's worth having a conversation. I think we have a question about Jakucionis and his minutes going forward when we get into the next segment here. But I just thought I thought he was tremendous. Yeah, who's next?
He gets 3 credit cookies, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I think they were all very, very deserved. Next, I've got another young player, Kel'el Ware. And I know that that's a player that we're going to be talking about a lot of next segment because he wound up playing some really solid minutes. I think he was brought onto the floor in combination with Bam Adebayo, something we haven't seen a lot of late. And I was at that point when they were able to kind of flip the script of the game because they had been down, as I said. And then with Ware out there, he was really helping to turn the tide. Really, really solid in every aspect of the game. Wound up having a really good night rebounding wise. What did he finish with here? I got 14 total rebounds,
14, yeah.
19 points, 8 of 13 for the floor, 2 of 2 from the line, 1 of 3 from 3-point range. But just his solid minutes. Alex Sarr, the ballyhooed rookie. Again, if you're going to look at the argument for why Tanky doesn't matter, you get the first pick in the draft on one side, Alex Sarr. And then you've got
Sarr was the second pick in the draft.
Second pick, sorry, yeah. Ricochet was the first pick in the draft.
Yeah, and that didn't work out either. So
So you get Kel'el Ware, and he looked like a much better player than Alex Sarr. Not a
Ware
knock on
has
Sarr.
consistently outplayed Sarr in these matchups. Sarr, for the record, he's having a good year in his second year here. But to your point, Ware outplayed him. So
yeah. So he gets 3 credit cookies as well.
Okay.
I think he was really solid.
I'll save my thoughts on Ware for the next segment.
Then you've got his front court partner there. I've got Bam Adebayo.
Wow.
With 2 points.
2 points or 2 credit cookies?
2 credit cookies. Sorry, 2 credit cookies. 22 total points, 9 of 15 from the floor, 8 rebounds, 5 steals. He was just everywhere, putting his imprint on the game. Look, the stat that stands out.
41.
That's it. That's the stat. That's ridiculous. Like he played 28 minutes and he was like, yeah, you know what? We're just going to crush in those minutes. And that was pretty evident. Like he came off the bench, after he'd taken a break, came in with Kel'el, and from that point, they just put their foot on the throat of the Washington Wizards. And
he played a team-high 28 minutes in this game, and he was a plus 40. He was the best player on the court for the Heat in this game. And that's absolutely okay. So you agree, and yet he gets fewer credit cookies than Ware and Jakucionis. Okay, whatever.
The expectations are different, Wes.
I understand.
The standard is different, and that's what I hold Bam to. So he should have these kind of impact minutes. I know it's the Wizards. And they're thin. They don't have the depth. They can't handle a player like Bam. Oh, and come on. Can we go a whole episode without talking about Bam yamming it on his own teammate?
He actually, I think, stole a credit cookie from Kel'el Ware after he dunked on him. That was crazy. Bam dunked on he puts his
he cleared him out.
It's violent. David, it was as violent as a poster that I've seen all year. Because a lot of these posters are non-posters, right? Like the guy's kind of off to the side and there's really no contact. They're like, oh, he got postered. No. To be on the poster, there has to be contact. That's a poster. And this was as violent of a poster as I've seen in the league all season long. And it was against his own teammate. Forearm to the neck of Kel'el Ware as he was dunking it on him. And then he gets down and he flexes on Ware, and Ware just laughs. And then Bam's asking for the photo because he wants to hang it in Ware's locker. And that's the plan.
It's good. It's good that there's that kind of chemistry there and that they're able to laugh about it. But
I'm going to leave it up to the comments here. Does Bam steal a credit cookie from Kel'el Ware with that dunk? I'm going to leave it in the YouTube comments. Let us know. Who's next?
So you think he should get 3? He should get
I
3
think he should get 3, and Ware should now get 2.
Because of that dunk?
I think he stole. Look, I understand where you're coming from with expectations. I understand the credit cookie scale is a different scale than the box score. Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around that. But in this instance, it does feel like Bam stole that credit cookie out of Ware's pocket with that dunk.
It was just a tremendous move to catch it flying in off the baseline like that, and then just like it was such.
You do want Ware. You might want to just be like, "That's what happens, Kel'el, if you don't box out." Like
that's right. That's right. That's a lesson to it. And you wind up on the wrong side of a poster from your own teammate.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
I've got 1 credit cookie again because the scale is different to Norm Powell. Second leading scorer on the team. Well, third leading scorer, 21 points, 5 of 12. That's what was the difference for me. Like the efficiency wasn't great, but the announcement that he is going on the way to represent Miami in the 3-point contest, 5 of 10 from 3-point range.
Yep.
I kind of like his chances. Norm, not a pure shooter, but he's on such a hot streak. I just also don't want him to have like the moment there where he shoots well in the 3-point contest and then his rhythm is off for the rest of the season. So I'm curious to see how it all plays out, but well-deserved. I think he's been phenomenal.
And productive while leaving the game for a moment with a lower back issue. Lower back tightness is what they called it, and then comes back into the game. So I don't care. He productive despite the injury that was clearly bothering him. Well-deserving of a cookie here.
Will he change his form around because he's not going to be able to catch it as a trailer or off the side
it's
step?
interesting because he's got that no dip 3 also that he goes to a lot, and in the 3-point contest, it's very difficult to get that no dip 3 going. You almost like, can they increase the height of the rack where you just grab it from up here? I don't know. Because I love Norm Powell. I do not like his chances in this 3-point contest because it's not to your point. That's not really how he does it, but.
Right.
Bobby Portis is in it. He'll probably win. The 3-point contest is always weird. I don't know.
Ooh, who else is in it then? Did I miss the announcement there? I didn't know we had the final tally there. But
they had the whole announcement. I'll tell you here in a second.
All right. Well, then, you know what? He gets 1 credit cookie, and the last credit cookie goes to Simone Fontecchio.
Okay, shout out to Fontecchio for the credit cookie. Good job for Fontecchio. Here's the 3-point contest. Norm Powell, Bobby Portis, Jamal Murray, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, Con Knipple, he's probably going to win it. Tyrese Maxey. Maxey could win it. He's a pull-up guy. Yeah. And then this should not be allowed. Damian Lillard, what are you doing here? You're out for the season.
What? It's not even in Portland. It's not even in Oakland where he's from. Like, I don't get it. Like, this feels like the Dwayne Wade and Dirk Nowitzki getting invited to the All-Star game. Like, what's Dame doing? It's like,
it would be them getting invited to the All-Star game with a torn Achilles. Like, you're out for the season because of an injury, Dame. What's going on? Why is he here?
I don't know. I'm curious. It's interesting.
Good job to everybody with the credit cookies. We have more on the Bam Ware minutes. It's the thing that turned the game against the Wizards, but is it going to be something that can turn Miami's season going forward? We'll talk about that next.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The winter games are officially here. Well, you know, my son and I have been loving watching curling. Have you been watching curling?
It's so my wife and I were watching this yesterday.
Right.
America versus, what was it, Estonia?
I saw them taking on Switzerland, if I'm not mistaken, or Sweden.
One of those countries. And
go America. We're just dismissing all of Europe. It's like one of those countries. Who knows? Completely different.
Sounds like Kid Rock. I can't figure out the rules. Is it like darts, but you can move the other dart out of the way, basically?
Yes.
Oh, so I did figure it out. All right, very good.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Did we win?
I don't know. I didn't say for the whole thing. It's like something you could just take a little bit of time, but you know what?
It's one of those games that goes until somebody wins. Like, there's not like a time limit, right? Like, it's just like we're still.
And the point scoring, I'm still off. You know what? But I'm glad America is a participant in that. It's just interesting. And I saw the excitement too from a figure skating win that they've already gotten gold at too. So you know what? It's the Winter Olympics, and it's just as exciting as the Summer Olympics. And if you're anything like us, Obviously, you're lucking in for the events that you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the winter games on FanDuel, it just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports that you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. The drama of curling matches that start slow and somehow get intense fast. Absolutely. Speed skating races decided by inches, hockey games that feel different right from the opening face-off. Every niche event, it becomes must-watch television when you're fully locked into the competition. FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Today's episode is also brought to you by Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Hiring is not just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move, because instead of hoping the right person just stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I'd want someone with real experience who can jump right in. And that's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you need. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by the candidates who are actually a fit. And here's the stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for listening to Locked On Heat, making us your first listen every day. Let's go to our questions from the Cookie Gang. You can submit questions for post-game shows like this by joining the Everydayer Club. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Adam writes in, can you see Bam and Ware pairing more in the future? Also, what do you think the ceiling is for this team? Malachi writes in, why won't Spo play Bam and Ware together more often? I believe them playing together will help the team more often than not for the rest of the season. The Bam and Ware minutes. This was the story of the game for me, David. Yeah. Kel'el Ware comes in at the end of the first quarter there. The Heat are down at that point 31-23, and you're watching this game, and you're lazy Sunday afternoon before the Super Bowl. You're like, all right, here we go. This is going to be one of those weird games. About 3 minutes left in the first quarter at that point. And then the game changes. Ware and Bam dominate the Wizards. The Heat go on a 21-6 run. They go from an 8-point deficit to a 7-point lead over a 5-minute span. That lead just balloons in the second quarter, and it's over. The game was basically over after that. So, yeah, that was the pairing that made the most sense. Kel'el said that he was a little surprised to see that he was going to be playing next to Bam. So this wasn't something that Spo had communicated with Ware before the game, which tells me that he wasn't sure he was going to go to it, but obviously decided in this matchup that he wanted to do it, which is a little bit different, David, considering that when asked about maybe Ware's minutes in the past, even against a team like Chicago, he's like, well, it wasn't the best matchup. I don't know, like the Wizards, who have to play small because they're basically forced to because of their personnel, he said, no, I think we could dominate with our size in this game. And I like that Spo went to it, better late than never, I guess, where he said, okay, let's try to dominate this team in the paint, and it worked.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to answer a question about their minutes going forward, because I think it would have worked in past matchups and we didn't see it. And then he decides to break it out against the Wizards when it obviously makes a lot of sense because the Wizards are small. But Spo clearly sees something that the rest of us don't, because he's making these decisions and they feel a little arbitrary, but you have to assume that somebody as experienced as Erik Spoelstra is looking for a certain something. Now, look, in the past, and we pointed this out, just because Kel'el is a big body doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to thrive in those circumstances, but you want him to at least have the opportunity to showcase that he can. So what we've seen in the past from Spo, though, is that when the pairing does work, when Kel'el does have the productive game, he kind of tends to ride that hot hand for a little bit. And I think that we're likely to see it. Again, the second night of a back-to-back, Niko Jovic has not been playing well of late. So I wonder if that's been a contributing factor. It's like, you know what? I don't have anybody else to go to. The Jovic and Bam fit maybe a little bit more seamless, but not nearly as effective. And so you go to Ware and you hope for the very best. Other than that, I don't know how to predict whether or not this is going to be a thing moving forward. My feeling is that it is until it's not, because that's just how Spo has always made these decisions. It's like, it's working. Let's go for 5 games, see how well it works. But if Kel'el makes a mistake or has a bad game, there's a very short hook, a surprisingly short hook. And we'll see whether or not Spo has made that adjustment, leading up to the All-Star break. Maybe he can continue to play well, and then we'll see whether or not he continues to get those opportunities after the All-Star break.
Nico and Ware are in a short hook competition right now, right? Like
Who's got the shorter hook?
Who's got the shorter hook? Nico played poorly in Boston. He gets benched, right, against the Wizards. So, I agree. I think we'll see it until we don't see it anymore. Now, the Ware and Bam minutes have been a net negative on the season. I know Spo is saying that they're never going to tank, and this probably isn't considered tanking, but trying to get them more reps. Just bringing that up, David. I don't know. I'm not sure what that means. I do think it's the right thing to do, regardless of what your goal is for the rest of the season. If the future is going to be Kel'el Ware, you could still trade Kel'el for Giannis this summer. Okay, whatever. That's over here. If there's still a door open for Kel'el being part of your future, and if he is part of your future, and Bam is obviously part of your future because he's untouchable in trades according to the organization, then you got to figure this out. Because you're not going to be able to just bring Ware off the bench forever. You're going to have to figure this out. So I think it's the right way to go. Let's go quickly through our last couple of questions. Cameron writes in, has Kasparas Jakucionis showed enough to stay in the rotation moving forward, even with this team healthy? Jonah writes in, do you think that leaning into the Kaz and Ware minutes more is going to be the norm, or is this because we're playing the Wizards? Between the 3 point guards, Davion Mitchell, Drew Smith, and Kasparas Jakucionis, you really only have enough minutes for 2 of them on any game if the team's healthy. I think that this team wants to see a little bit more about what Jakucionis can do. I think even if it's not an every game basis, I do think we'll see more of him going forward. And after a game like this, how do you pull him?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think he should get some more minutes, and yeah, he's part of the team's future. I think he's played well. He's continued to get better. I think he's a guy who thrives with the opportunity, like most NBA players, and I think he's found a comfortable rhythm. And so I would expect Spo to continue to give him the opportunity to play and prove something as he continues to go throughout the rest of the season. What's the goal here? Like, what's the plan like for the rest of the season, and how does Kaz meet whatever criteria they're looking for in terms of reaching his potential or exceeding the expectations for the season? Because I think that's an interesting question to have moving forward. Is do you want to keep him playing as part of the rotation and want to see him thrive in a particular aspect? Because I'm not sure exactly what the Heat is looking for. But that's what I'm curious to see is whether or not he continues to get these opportunities and maybe even get tested in some really tough situations, especially leading towards the postseason.
The Heat are 18th in offensive rating. And I think the idea is, well, Kaz is the best offensive player, or at least the highest upside offensive guy of that group of point guards. So if we're going to be better offensively, which we need to be, he maybe gives our best chance to do that. Last one here, Pet comes in. It was 1 win. I'll take it. But any update on Tyler Herro? It keeps saying that his ribs are hurt, but when is he expected back? No update on Tyler Herro. And as we're recording this, I just checked. Miami has still not released their injury report against Utah. Herro not expected to play in this game. But it feels like one of those things where we're just going to get word that, Tyler Herro is trending towards playing. So I think it could potentially be any game now, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be this week, next week, this month. Right now, the Heat are being very, very careful with Tyler
I would
Herro.
assume that he plays before the All-Star break. I mean, you got a couple games left before you go on a break, right?
Yeah, maybe you're saying he doesn't play, and then you give
I
him a
wouldn't
break
think
and then
so.
come back. Yeah, that's very likely. That'll do it for us today. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On Heat. Make sure you subscribe, follow Locked On Heat so you get all the latest episodes. We'll be back later tonight with our post-game reaction to Heat Jazz. We'll talk to you soon.